Hi, my name is Andrea Buckley, and I am a licensed mental health therapist in the state of Michigan. And welcome to Connection Diaries. I am so happy that you're here. We have just finished with our October series where I discuss lessons that I've learned on my personal healing journey, and we are entering November. And so for my November series, I am doing a Q&A. I'm answering real questions from my community for the clients that I work with live so that you can get a little bit more personal. Maybe you're like, I don't necessarily work with her one on one, but I've always wanted to ask a therapist this. This is what November is all about. And I'm super excited to conclude this series with the season finale after Thanksgiving because we're going to be talking about the topic of grief as we go into the holiday season and as we navigate the end of the year. I am so excited. So, as you dive into this November series, I want to hear from you. So, please like, subscribe, comment, share this video, and more importantly, send me your questions. In the comment section of this video, you will see the various ways in which you can do that. So I'm looking on Facebook, I'm looking on Instagram, I'm looking at my email, I'm looking at feedback surveys in order to get the feedback that I need so that I can answer the most important questions. All right, so let's jump in. And for today's video, I'm going to be answering 4 questions. And so these questions, again, they came from Instagram, they came from Facebook, they came from email, they came from client sessions. So let's just dive in. And I hope that you gain something from these particular questions. And as always, I will have some journaling prompts so that you can dive a little bit deeper and to begin to see how can I apply this advice to my own life. So we're going to start with question number 1, which I'm really excited about. And it says, what is self-love? And is there a limit to one loving themselves, especially in a romantic relationship? I love this question because we get to start off with the definition because words are really important. And sometimes we say words, but we're all operating from different definitions. And love is one of those words that can get a little bit tricky. I can say, I love you. You can say, you love me too. And we can mean totally different things. And so I want to start by defining that. And for me, self love is the process of acceptance, it's the process of nurturing oneself, and it's also the process of respecting oneself. So when I think of acceptance, I think of accepting the whole of who I am, the good, the bad, the ugly, the light, and the shadows. When I think about nurturing, I think about giving myself what it is that I need, honoring what it is that I desire, sitting with my longing, being honest about me being a needy person. I know sometimes that's really hard for us to accept that we have needs because maybe throughout our lives we have been taught to downplay those needs or to pretend that we don't have needs. And the last piece is respect. And that's where boundary setting comes in. That's why we talk about boundary setting, that self love cannot exist with the absence of boundaries. Because then I don't know where you begin and where I end, or like things get meshed, and we ultimately lead to more of like a codependence versus interdependence. So again, self love is acceptance, it's being able to nurture yourself, and it is respect, which to me I define by the ability to set boundaries. So let's answer the second part of that question, which is there a limit to one loving themselves, especially in a romantic relationship? I would say that sometimes our capacity to love ourselves is diminished when we are in certain relationships, again, where there's this codependent dynamic where I'm not allowed to advocate for myself, to say what I need, to be honest about how I feel. Like if I'm not allowed to accept, to nourish, and to respect myself in this relationship, then yeah, in a way, I'm limiting my capacity to love myself for whatever reason that may be. But if I'm in a relationship that allows me to flourish and to thrive, to love on myself, to accept myself, a relationship where my boundaries are honored, where my needs are respected, where I'm able to center what it is that I desire, then there is no limit. And I want to just kind of challenge that word in general. When I think about limit, I think about having more of a fixed mindset. I think about outcome. I think about a destination. When really self love is this continuous journey, it's this destination that you don't necessarily arrive to. It's something that's happening internally. You're in relationship with yourself. Sometimes I don't even like the word self-love because of how it's been watered down and how, we've used it as a means to say like, oh, I need to show myself love, self-love. Let me go to the spa, or let me do my nails or do my hair, or, things of that nature, which those are good things. But having a relationship with myself, showing myself love is a little bit more deeper than what typically we see on the surface. And so I want to be able to be in relationship with myself while I'm also in relationship with others. And if I'm able to successfully do that based off the definition I just defined, then there isn't a limit. We continue to grow and evolve together and move forward. And every day I have to show up and be committed to loving myself. It is not like a, oh, check, I'm done. It's like I keep doing this, I keep showing up, I keep having to challenge, the parts of me that maybe are resistant to me centering my own needs, to setting boundaries, to responding to my triggers, to allowing myself to feel. It's an ongoing thing, just like any relationship, right? Like if I just stop talking to my friends or stop talking to the people I love, that probably will impact our relationship to some extent. And so I hope that answers your question. If not, feel free to ask a follow-up question. I would love to dig a little bit deeper into that question. And we're going to go into question number 2, which is how to make friends as an adult. This is one of my favorite topics because I really believe in the importance of making friends as adults. Because a lot of times as we grow and as we evolve, we realize that our current friendships do not serve us, that maybe we outgrow those friendships, or maybe you don't necessarily outgrow the friendships, but maybe they're not giving you what you need because they're also growing and developing themselves. So maybe there's something that you long for, some type of intimacy that you want to see platonically that you don't see in your current circle. You have to be open to love in that way in order to receive it. And I'm of the belief that I have not met all the people in my lifetime that will love me, that I'm always going to be open and receptive to more loves, especially platonic love, because I think that platonic love often is kind of put, I don't know, kind of like on a lower bar than like romantic love in our society, when platonic love can be this beautiful, intimate, joy filled experience as well if we open ourselves up to it. And so, how to make friends as an adult, I would say put yourself out there, put yourself in spaces where they're actually purpose for genuine connection, not necessarily just a social club where you just go and you just kind of be in a space and it's kind of like awkward, because like people already know each other and they're like, maybe they're not as receptive to meeting new people. You want to go to a place where there's a lot of emotional availability and a lot of vulnerability and a lot of consistency. That to me is the ingredients for being in environments where you can make new friends. So maybe it's a book club, maybe it's a support group, maybe it's like your faith support group, whether that be like church or a small group. It may be something that you got to create yourself. I know that was the case for me. I was looking for a particular kind of friendship and I created a therapist collective of beautiful women that I now can call my friends. So I really excited because it's a mutually beneficial experience, but I get to walk away with women of all different ages, all different experiences, but women that I can call friends now. I also met a friend on Bumble. I know that's something that people are resistant to, meeting people online, but we live in a virtual world. Like, in order to have access to the amount of people that I could be in community with, sometimes technology helps us do that. And she actually is in Canada. Maybe one day she can come on my YouTube channel, but she's amazing. Like, and the reason I'm saying that is because as soon as she came into my life, I noticed a benefit and I noticed the value that she offered to my life. I noticed how our values aligned. And so yeah, you got to really just put yourself out there and position yourself to be in spaces, not social clubs, not those events you go to. And it's kind of like we're just connecting on a surface level. You want to go to spaces where you can dig a little bit deeper and get to know each other. And maybe it could be a space where you all routinely meet, whether it be weekly or monthly or bi-weekly. Those are the ingredients for connection. And so you can't just go to an event and be like, I didn't meet anybody. Well, was that event kind of really centered? What did it center connection? Or did it center transaction? And that's how a lot of these events are. I host courage circles, and the purpose of these events is to center connection, to allow people to really get to know each other, to center, genuine love, not necessarily just transaction or what can I get from you in that regard. And so that's something I want you to think about. All right, so that question is answered. I also responded to that question on Facebook, so I hope that you got a couple of nuggets that spoke specifically to your situation. But broadly speaking, that's what I would say when it comes to friendship: vulnerability, connection, consistency. All of those need to be ingredients when you think about building new friendships. Otherwise, you're just going to social clubs and you're increasing the level of loneliness maybe that you experience, or you're not really able to connect on a intimate level and seeing the depth that you long for, that you're wired for. So I'll just say that. How do you maintain connections in long distance relationships? That was the third question. I love this question too, and I want to answer it more broadly. I want to answer it from a romantic standpoint and a platonic standpoint, because again, those are both loves that we want to invite into our life. And one is not necessarily higher than the other, they're just different connections, right? And so there's a lot of people who may resonate with the fact that they're in long distance friendships and or long distance romantic partnerships. And this advice applies to both. You got to be intentional as you grow and as you evolve, as the relationship changes, as you have lots of time to hang out versus little time to hang out. We got to get creative about how can we continue to be intricate parts of each other's lives. So for example, me and one of my besties, we are in a long distance relationship, and one app that we use is an app called Marco Polo. Look it up, it's great. And it's a video app. So we basically check in with each other weekly, and so I'll just give her an update on what's going on in my life, and then I'll send it, and then she can respond whenever she can. And she'll give me an update and we'll respond. And it just feels a little bit more personal than like a group text or a text message or just kind of staying up to date on social media. And it doesn't take that long because I can do it when I'm free and she can do it when she's free. And so that's a thing that I really, really recommend. Marco Polo, going on Zoom dates, maybe just going on FaceTime and watching a movie together, doing a craft together, journaling together, meditating together. Like, get creative. Like, just as fancy as we get with our romantic dates, like we can get that fancy with our platonic dates. And we can admit that we want that level of intimacy from our friends, and that's okay. So maybe that's where you start. You start with acknowledging that you want intimacy, even though there's distance, and that's okay, meaning geographically there's distance. I have another childhood friend. We don't necessarily get to talk every day, but every once in a while we're like, we need to check in. We need to actually put something on the calendar, mark the calendar, put it on the calendar, and let's just have a phone call. Nothing too deep, but just check in with each other, have a phone call, see how each other is doing. Let's not use social media as a barometer of if this person is alive and well, because that don't tell us nothing. Because people are typically just showing, again, like their highlight reel, right? And so I would say just be intentional and be creative when it comes to long distance relationships and express the intimacy that you desire. Of course, there may be space for maybe, meeting each other halfway or traveling or, obviously meeting each other in person as well. But if that is not accessible to you, I want you to think about like, how can I creatively show love to this person and to speak their love language, whether it be like quality time or acts of service or whatever the case may be, because I'm unable to give that person a physical touch. And so that would be my advice there. I hope that is helpful. And I hope that my response to you also spoke specifically to your situation. And my last question I'll talk about that I found was how to start my Monday. And I took that question as like, what do I do in the morning? Like, what is your morning routine? Monday could be a really hard day for people. And a lot of times that's because we're going back to the work week. We're coming off of a weekend for a lot of people, traditionally speaking. And it could be really overwhelming to think about all of the stuff that we have to do during the week. And so I will answer this question by saying, for me, when I think of a morning routine, I'm not saying I do it perfectly, I'm always showing up or anything like that. But I will say one thing I try to do is to start the morning with self intimacy practices. What do I mean by self intimacy practices? I mean things like journaling, things like yoga, things like meditation, things like prayer, things by just sitting in silence, like just watching the sunrise. Oh, that's one of my favorite things if I can access it, just literally being still. Because most of the time, what happens is when we wake up in the morning, we have to jump straight to, work, or maybe you have kids, you got to get out the door, or, whatever the case may be. And that's not good for our nervous system, one. But two, I want you to practice giving yourself permission to prioritize you first in the morning. To say, wow, like I have breath in my lungs, and that it's okay that my purpose on earth is more than just doing for everybody else or showing up for everybody else. That I get to take a moment of silence, a moment of peace to say, wow, like one, I'm alive, but two, let me connect with myself and see like what is it that I really need in this moment? What's coming up for me? Let me tune in with myself. Let me start my day with connection and allow that to set the tone for the rest of the day, right? I can tell the difference when I'm able to have a slower morning versus when I'm jumping straight into work or jumping straight into doing something for someone else. And so that's how I would say, start your morning. do whatever it is that actually nourishes you versus whatever it is that triggers you and makes you anxious and dysregulates you. Like, no, we want to breathe and ease into the morning. And I know that's not always possible, and that's fine. But let's get curious about ways in which we can be creative to make sure that we're starting our morning in a way that is self intimate versus in a way that disconnects us from ourselves. So, thank you so much for watching. Always remember that you are loved, that you are enough, and stay inspired. And as always, please like, comment, and subscribe. I really, really appreciate the questions. And I'm really excited to kind of get to the next set of questions because they're going to be juicy. So, again, if there's questions that you always want to ask a therapist, hey, I'm here. That's what this platform is for. And so I'm looking forward to next week. I'll see you again. Have a good day.